When I say the words nature study, do those words elate you? Do they fill you with joy? Or do they maybe make you roll your eyes or fill you with dread? Or maybe even strike fear into your heart? Let's talk all about it. If you're new here, I'm Rian, a Christ-following wife and a homeschool mom to 3 boys. Here we talk all things homeschool, and we will learn together how to use our roles as wife, mom, teacher, and homemaker in order to glorify God. So no matter where you fall on that spectrum, I know if you're a homeschool mom, you've probably heard about nature study, right? This is a huge movement in the 19th and 20th centuries. Charlotte Mason introduced this idea in a lot of her books, and it's just about, going outside, exploring nature, and letting nature kind of be your teacher. And I appreciate a lot about Charlotte Mason. I follow some of her philosophies. I don't think she is the be all end all of all education, but I think her philosophies work as a general principle for some and not for others. So that being said, I find there is a lot to be said about nature, about letting your kids out in nature. But I will tell you, I am not a huge nature study curriculum person. I don't think that's necessarily bad. I know people who are all about it. I know people who spend half their day in nature studies, and that is awesome. It is not for me. I am kind of a nature-y person, more so now that I have kids. But I know a lot of moms aren't, and I know a lot of moms are more nature-y than I am. But I'm going to share my 3 whys of why I love nature study, and then I'm going to share with you how that can be done, especially for those of us who either don't have the time or really the desire to carve out a huge chunk of time for nature study, and who don't really want to invest a lot in a curriculum or anything like that. So my 3 whys. I do believe that being in nature makes science more real. I think it makes it more interesting because it's everyday stuff that is around us all the time. It's not just science experiments and explosions and all these different chemical reactions and all that. There's so much more to science than that. And the basis of science really is found in nature. We can see it in the world around us. And so as we understand the world around us, we can build on that knowledge. So I do understand that part of nature study. I also do love that it kind of ignites a passion for investigation and for exploration and discovery. It helps you to learn how to ask questions, learn how to feel and touch and explore what is around you to learn something new. And the biggest part for me is that, number 3, this helps us to know God, right? So when you're in nature and you are touching the grass and you're picking up a bug, or you're moving around rocks and digging in the dirt, whatever it is you're doing, you're touching things and playing with things and investigating things that no man can create, okay? Yes, we can grow flowers and whatever, but we have to start with the seed, right? And we can't just manufacture that. So we are in a God-given playground, a God-given science lab. And so we are prone to worship, right? When we get down to creation and see what God has made that we cannot create. It is one way that we can see, okay, I am like God, I am created in His image, but I'm not God. I can't do this. So now I'm going to move on to the how. Okay, Ryan, this is all great. And maybe you're on board. Maybe you're like, no, I understand all that. I love the idea of nature study, but I hate nature. Or I don't have time. Or I don't want to spend money on this. Or I don't know what the heck I'm doing. That's okay. Because really, I didn't know what I was doing either when I first started homeschooling. I was just like, oh, that sounds cool. That sounds great. I'm on board. What do I do? And so like a lot of moms, I tried to overcomplicate it. I didn't have money at the time to buy any fancy curriculum. And so I was like, okay, how can I reproduce this curriculum, kind of in my own words and with my own tools? And how do I do that? And I made it a lot more complicated than it has to be. So if you're just starting out, if you're just like, I want to do this, but I don't want to do this, I would consider 3 things to give yourselves, you and your children, in order to make this work. The first is time. Now, I am not saying this has to be a daily 45-minute thing. If you have the time for that, more power to you. I don't have that kind of time. This doesn't even have to be daily. It can be once a week for 30 minutes. It can be once a day for 10 minutes. However you can fit it into your schedule, just carve out the time for it. Because not only is it great to actually get the nature study in, but everybody needs fresh air. Everybody needs to be outside and get some vitamin D from the sun and breathe some not recycled air, right? And stretch your legs and just be out of the four walls of your home, right? And so it's good for you, no matter your age, to just get out. So just make that time. Second thing you need is space. And this can be, you go to a park, you go someplace that has nature trails where you go kind of hiking, no matter if it's, a quarter mile or 4 miles. This can be the woods. You might have woods in your backyard or have family that has woods close by, or you might have a public forest available to you. But this can also be right in your own backyard. This can be laying on blankets and looking at the sky. This can be carving out. One of my favorite things to do is carve out not actually carve out, but block off a 1 foot by 1 foot square and see what you can see in that little tiny patch of earth. And you will be amazed when you actually look. But the biggest thing is just find a space and take the distractions out of that space. So don't bring your phone with you. I say that with a caveat because sometimes it is important to take pictures if you want to take pictures, or to look something up, or you can look that up later even. But by and large, get rid of the electronics and get rid of anything that's going to keep you from looking and seeing what's around you. And the third thing would be intent. And so you have the time, you have the space, but now you need a purpose, right? And so, like I said, you could bring all the curriculum books out there. You could. Or you could just bring a notebook and a pencil, and you could just draw what you see. And you could just bring the magnifying glass and look at a piece of grass under a magnifying glass and then draw what you see, right? Because that's a whole different drawing when you get that magnifying glass and you can see every little individual line of the grass. And this is when you're going to use your 5 senses. You're going to encourage your kids, maybe not to taste the bugs, but you're going to say, what do you feel right now? And they're going to talk about it, and maybe they'll jot it down if they're old enough, or maybe you'll just jot it down. Okay, what do you hear right now? Just be quiet. What can you hear? When you rub these two things together, what do you hear? When you stomp on this, what do you hear? Now touch it. How does that feel? Again, obviously have safety in mind. Don't be touching a copperhead or anything like that. But what do you feel right now? What do you see? What do you smell? Again, the taste one, use some good discretion there. But you're going to use your senses and you're going to investigate. You're going to ask them questions maybe. Hey, what happens if you do X, Y, Z? Hey, why do you think this grows this way instead of this way? Why do you think there's more of these in the shade as opposed to the sun? Ask questions that are really not difficult, and you may not know the answer to them, but just get them thinking. And you're going to experiment. What happens if we try to pick up this bug? What's he going to do? Is he going to try to get away? What's going to happen if we set him over here? Is he going to try to fly back to where, just anything. It doesn't have to be difficult. And lastly, when you're with that intention, you're going to appreciate what's around you. You're going to look around you and you're going to say, wow, look at what God has made. Let's thank him for this. Let's thank him that he made a world with clouds and with a sun and with grass and flowers and bugs and birds and rabbits and whatever else for us to enjoy, right? Because he didn't have to make those things, but he chose to. And they're ultimately to bring him glory. So as we learn about these things, we can thank him for them and appreciate and glorify him in those things. And then when you go back to your house, keep the conversation going. Not necessarily all day, unless you want to, but if they are like, man, I didn't understand, that earthworm. Why did he do this? What did he do then? And blah, 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 blah. Go check out a book from the library about earthworms. Go look up a YouTube video about earthworms. Go get out the encyclopedia, whatever you have to do, and let them lead the way. So this is very much a child-led exercise, and you're just there to help facilitate, to help provide the tools, give them some tweezers, give them a shovel, give them a magnifying glass and a notebook and a pen, and just see what comes of it. It is not complicated. And now I don't even have to schedule this in my day, because anytime I let my boys outside, which is daily, they do it themselves. Now, they don't always have a pen and paper and a magnifying glass, like writing down every little description, but they're out there and they're touching things and they're playing with things and they're appreciating the things that God has made. And I think that is the biggest reason why nature study is important anyway. So let me know down below, is nature study already a part of your homeschool? If so, what does that look like? Or you can check out how I motivate my kids to do their school. Talk to you next time. Bye.